Guys, Danny Williamson here, Integrative Family Medicine, and I have got Dietrich with me tonight. He is an emotional intelligence guru. He is the leader in emotional intelligence and coaching, and we're going to break all of that down tonight. As you guys get logged on, I want you to tell us where you're from and tell me what you think your definition is of emotional intelligence. And maybe you've had emotional intelligence coaching. I'm sure you're way more emotionally intelligent than I am. So I can't wait to learn from him tonight. I have a good friend, Lindsay, who sees him as a coach, and he has absolutely changed her world and the way she thinks about things. So I'm really excited. Dietrich, I'm so excited for you to be here. We have rescheduled this 3 times.
Wow.
2 because of me, 1 because he couldn't get on last time. I can't remember what happened. But anyway, here we are, like the 3rd or 4th time here trying this. So tonight, we're going to learn what emotional intelligence is. Now, I looked it up and it says the ability to manage our own emotions. I don't know if that's true or not. I have no truth. But I did learn that 90% of all communication is non-verbal.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true?
Oh my goodness. It's so true. Just ask a baby.
Oh, ask a baby. Yes. Yeah. That is exactly right. Okay, so I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about Dietrich while you guys are logging on tonight. Hi, Dorinda. It's good to see you here. He is the founder of Emotional Wealth Management, Inc., which is a research-based coaching style that integrates neuroscience into the world of emotional intelligence. He offers a very unique set of skills that produce long-term results in a short-term period of time. And I can vouch for that with my friend. He's been working with people from all walks of life for over 40 years. He's a sought-after speaker. He's a published author. He's a teacher. He's a mentor. He's a father. He's a husband, all those things. He's had the privilege to work with high executives in the airline industry, the professional athletes, law enforcement, oil and gas, real estate. I mean, the list goes on. Knowledge and wisdom, and he brings real transformation to people's lives. And he is happily married to Edith, 40 years. Can you believe it? Living in Calgary, Alberta, with his family. So I am so excited about this tonight. And as I was listening going over your website, actually probably 6 weeks ago, and I revisited today, I listened to your story of trauma, childbirth, and the trauma that you had, basically born a stillbirth, as was I. I was alive, but not breathing, blue, and the cord was wrapped around my neck 3 times, born in a Navy hospital in Lexington Park, Maryland. They took me away from my mom. Of course, Dad wouldn't have been in there 55 years ago. And she didn't see me for 3 days, and they said I probably wouldn't live. And I came out of that, and I clearly have been screaming ever since. But, so we both come from this birth of trauma, childbirth. Isn't that something?
Yeah, we have this common connection that's invisible.
I know, that's completely invisible. So tell us what you do. What is emotional intelligence?
Danny, that's a good question.
Listen to his voice. He's so amazing just already. And he's only said 4 words.
Well, thank you for sharing your birth story.
Yeah.
It's a very tender story. Yeah. And that was something that in my own birth story, I was 2 pounds and 4 ounces.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay. So that's probably, the size of the brain is 3 pounds. So I was lighter than my own brain, in my head.
Yes, you were.
And then it went down to a pound, and there's a photo of my dad holding me at a month in the palm of his hand. Oh my God, it's just breathtaking. You know,
Wow.
and our birth stories are very important to us. And sometimes when I'm working with clients, that's where, that will come up. And I've done enormous personal work in this area
Oh,
around my own birth story, because it was, what goes on in the back of our mind, all
yes.
that nattering, it's there for a reason. And if we just dismiss it all the time, there's all kinds of things that we're not going to notice that's trying to get our attention. And we often dismiss it. As a result, parts of our character, our personality, aspects of our emotions become they don't we don't get to use them, and we become a little more narrowly defined. So sometimes when I'm working with people, I really am interested in what's going on in the back of their mind, because the back of our minds are always moving. And so in the back of my mind, I was preoccupied with death.
Really?
I went to my dad one day and I said, I was probably 8, maybe 10. I asked him about death and, what is he? And I didn't know any different. And he says, you could go before me.
Ooh.
Well, that was the end of the discussion. I didn't know much at, 10-ish, but he was a soldier. He went through the war and he understood life from a whole different context. But then I thought, what is it about this how come I'm preoccupied with this? And I realized this had to do with my birth, because I
Wow.
was pronounced dead in utero. And not only that, I realized later my mother lost 5 children before I was born.
Wow.
And so she had a set of twins before I was born, and they died within a month of birth. And before that, she miscarried 3. So that's 5. So now she's pregnant with me, and the doctor says, Mrs. Desmarais, I'm sorry to say you have another stillborn. And so that compounding effect of children not alive in her womb, as I'm only surmising because I'm masculine, but for a woman, for a mother to carry a child and then not bring that child to life 5 times. And now when, that I was pronounced dead in utero. And once I realized that, something awoke in me. Isn't that interesting? But so what is emotional intelligence? It's about there's 2 cornerstone phrases: being self-aware and ability to self-reflect. And it's like a coin with 2 sides. And if we're not aware, our ability to reflect will not open up. And so the brain is designed to be aware and reflect. And these are 2 different neural shifting movements. You see how the body's moving? And when you and I are aware, we have a similar birth story. See that awareness?
Yes.
That is evoking curiosity in the brain. Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
And curiosity opens up neural circuits and creates a whole brain experience. And it actually is a form of playfulness. And then you can reflect a bit more. Now, not analyze, not process, and not fix, and not blame, or not judge. Just reflect, not deflect, but reflect. So when
Okay.
I'm working with executive business leaders, I've worked with teenagers. I've been a coach for professors who teach psychology have hired me as their coach.
Wow.
And it's because I'm bringing practical emotional intelligence to our internal real life state so we can be who we are. So what is emotional intelligence? Yes, you asked that. It's a good question. Many people ask me this. And the quote that you shared is actually pretty much similar to what Daniel Goleman, who's one of the forerunners of EQ or emotional intelligence, it's how we handle ourselves in our relationships. So Okay, that's true. So the research that I've done is integrating the practical neuroscience into the conversation of emotional intelligence and watching people come from the absence of self-awareness and deflecting to being aware and reflecting. And these are powerful skills, and they're often referred to as sort of the introduction to soft skills. Because when people aren't aware and don't reflect, they dismiss. And have
Yeah.
you met people like that?
Well, yes. And I think that I have been like that at times in my life. I think I'm a deflector by nature instead of reflector. I really believe that as a single mom. And I mean, I think a lot of us are deflectors, right?
Yeah.
We just go through life so fast we don't even think about it and we don't take the time to reflect. Okay.
Interesting. So when if you have a coin someone gives you, and it's a great coin, you like it, it's mint condition, and you flip it over and there's nothing on the other side. Well, there's no currency now, is there? It has no value because it's just a one-sided coin. Well, that's what happens when we are self-aware and we don't reflect. So if you're aware and then you reflect a bit, which is simple, we're doing this very naturally, that reflecting opens up insight into your brain. Wow. And insight is the word sight is connected to the word seeing things and light and awareness. And it actually opens you into a whole brain sort of bigger picture mindset. And that is much more satisfying. And so I create a whole brain awareness with people without them having to know it. I'm not getting all neuro with them. It's just very smooth, very interactive. So I make it I do all the work with my clients, and they have no homework, and I give them a few like hints and tools to pick up on and practice. And so that just the tools alone and the conversation creates a neuro shift in their brain. And they start to realize things and notice things in a very natural, intuitive way, because change has to come from the inside out, Danny. And we all know that. And if we only think about change from here and it doesn't go down into the heart, that means the brainstem here is shutting down the information and it's all getting stuck there. And we're not engaging our heart, because the heart, well, is the core of who we are, not our brain, really. Like if you're brain dead, you're still alive. But if your heart dead, well, okay, day's over.
That's terrible. But that's one of the best ways. That's a great way to explain it. Yes, that's right.
So when we live out of our heart, it doesn't mean that we don't use our brain. We actually, the heart informs the brain, and they work together all the time. They're not separate. It's impossible. So many people are aware of things, but they don't want to, like, in effect, reflect a little deeper and show some of their deeper heart reflective thoughts, because they don't know what to do with that. And that's where these skills become really important. Because when you don't share from your heart at some point, you only become a transactional communicator. And transactional communication gets boring after a while.
Yes.
So all communication isn't for transaction. It's for the sake of connection.
Oh, bingo.
And you created a connection with me right away, Danny. You said, Dietrich, I listened to your story. Can I tell you my story? And you told me your story. And look at this connection. Like, I'm just drawn to you now, even more I was before, because of our mutual friend. And, looking at your stuff, I love your energy, but there's this other part of our story that, oh my goodness, this is it. We have a common experience that has an overlap somewhere, because we all share the same human experience. But how we mature in it is very unique, though. And this is where emotional intelligence and the type of work that I bring to people opens up maturity skills, because you can't mature without being emotional and intelligent. Many people are intelligent, but their relational skills to connect and bond are very tenuous. There's other words for it, but they don't have the depth. But they are smart. And other people can be judged as too emotional. Oh, don't be so emotional. You're being so dramatic, etc. And so these are extreme judgments that we put on people, but both are valuable. It's not one or the other. It's one and the other. And so when a baby is growing in utero and right at birth, it's the right side of the brain that's growing first. Well, what does that mean? Well, the nonverbal skills of tone, voice, proximity, smell, all those things are taking place all the time on the right side. And then the left side begins to grow, which is logic and reason. And well, that's important, because even Harvard has researched that that emotion is the currency for all communication, for all negotiating. And if you're emotionally aware and you're intelligent, well, oh my goodness, imagine what could be possible for your life. So, because we're not divided, we're actually very integrated. And so, can I take you through a short little exercise to
Yes,
illustrate
please.
that?
Please
Okay.
do. You guys hit your heart buttons if you want him to take us through a little exercise here. I know they do. So, yes, let's do it. Let's try.
Okay. So, you and everyone listening and watching, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to introduce you to two words. I'll say the first word, then you say it out loud. You ready?
Okay.
Interpersonal.
I think you said interpersonal. You cut out on me. Interpersonal. Interpersonal.
Okay, interpersonal. And say it again. Interpersonal. So here's the exercise. Interpersonal.
Interpersonal.
That's between you and I. It's interpersonal.
Okay.
Got that?
Got it.
So the first word is interpersonal.
Interpersonal.
You gotta move your hand. Yeah. So
when
you
move
your
my hand towards you. Okay.
Yeah. So it's interpersonal, interactive. So moving the hand is really important because the brain is registering it at a deeper level now. It's not just a concept. It's using your whole sensory expression to integrate something that's kind of new information. So it's interpersonal. Most communication is nonverbal. Well, this is nonverbal. So that's the first part of the exercise. Now, the second word is intrapersonal.
Intrapersonal.
Perfect. Again, intrapersonal.
Personal.
And again,
intrapersonal.
And interpersonal.
And interpersonal.
Okay, that's the exercise.
Okay.
So we are intrapersonal and we are interpersonal. That makes sense. So many relationships are only interpersonal and it's transactional, and it doesn't go into the intrapersonal. They hold that out. Nope, not going there. So the intrapersonal gets boring after a while because you want some depth.
Yes.
So the intrapersonal is from the inside of us coming out.
Yes.
And we need both.
Yes.
And when you have both, the whole brain, the mind, the body, the spirit of who you are and your unique personality between two people just start integrating. So anyways, that's a little tool. What do you think of that?
Oh, I think it's fantastic. And I never thought about it, right? I never thought about it. So, okay. So we work on that. We work on intrapersonal. So that's one way to
Yeah.
become more emotionally intelligent. How do we become more emotionally intelligent? Say we don't have a coach. What do we do?
Well, we have our mothers, our fathers, our family, and our friends, and our community of people.
Yes.
And all that's where we learn our emotional, capacity is in our
Right.
community. Now, one of the unique things to help us grow quicker I call it EQ. So like there's IQ and EQ,
Okay.
intelligent quotient, emotional quotient.
Yes.
So the most powerful emotion that the human brain looks for right from birth is joy.
Really?
Isn't that interesting?
Joy.
Mm-hmm.
So we're wanting to associate ourselves with people who are full of joy
Who have more
naturally.
joy capacity. And one of the ways you know that you have joy with someone is they're glad to be with you.
Yes.
And Lindsay and I are glad to be with each other. And she tells me about you, and she is glad to be with you. And so when I meet you, of course, I'm glad to be with you. And
Yes.
that creates a joy connection in the brain, and it draws one person to another so you can build on that connection. Now, joy also is, and this is one of my favorite little teaching points around emotional intelligence. Joy is tenderness towards weakness. Just say that out loud.
Joy is tenderness towards weakness.
Mm-hmm. Now think of someone in your life who's been tender towards you when you aren't yourself and you're kind of weak and wobbly and you can't get back to yourself. Who's someone in your life that's tender towards you in those moments?
Yes. I have an
That's
idea.
that's joy.
Wow. That's
Well,
joy. And we're all looking for that, especially now more than ever, the last 18 months.
yes. Now say these two words: self-aware,
Self aware,
self-reflect.
self reflect.
You just did that now. You went, oh, we've been looking for this. We need this more. Like we need this now over the last 18 months. You notice how your insight and your awareness is more expansive and your ability to reflect and interact has opened up.
Yes. And it was completely
And you're,
unintentional, or I didn't realize, yes.
yeah. And so there's more neurons operating now, and your heart and your brain are intersecting very naturally. And your unique Danny presence is here, calm, clear minded, interpersonal, and intrapersonal. Here we are.
Wow. Isn't that something?
And the nattering in the back of your brain has quieted right down.
Yes. Yes. I'm not thinking about anything else. Isn't
Mhm.
that, yes. I heard you on your website on a video talk about we only use like 12 emotional based words. Am I correct on that? What is
Yes,
it?
yeah.
12 emotional based words a week, not a day. What are emotional based words? What are you talking about there? Because I feel like I'm extremely emotionally based. What
Mhm.
are emotional based words? Tell us.
That's a good question.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
I was curious when I listened to that.
there are over it's almost unbelievable when I say it, but there are well over 1,000 emotion-based words in the English language. Who would know, right? And we only use a very small percentage of them. And one of the indicators, the number one indicator of an emotionally intelligent person, is they have a robust emotional vocabulary.
Somebody type that in the comments because I don't want to miss what he's saying. Somebody type that in the comments. The number one indicator of an emotionally intelligent human is they
have a robust emotional vocabulary.
Robust emotional vocabulary.
So they
some.
can.
Give me some examples.
Okay, so they can take a word and match it to the emotion in a moment. They don't have to think about it. They just go, oh, I know what I'm feeling. I know the word. So there's a range for words, let's say for anger.
Okay.
And there's a range of words for fear. But they can say, well, I'm level 1 angry. But some people say, well, I'm angry, but it's too big of a word for the context. But what if they say, well, I'm not angry. I just feel a little fussy right now. Oh. And the word anger, anger and fear are a coin with two sides, and it's one of the most fundamental words we need to learn how to be, because anger is always connected to fear. So what does fear look like? What does anger look like? And children who are raised with the vocabulary around anger and fear are much more confident, self-assured, because they can take the word of anger and the word of fear and use it appropriately in a context, because their mummies and daddies navigate that word appropriately. And so don't be angry. Oh, you shouldn't be afraid. Don't be such a sissy. Boys often get that. Or they actually listen to the child and they assess, oh, you're embarrassed. You're not, no wonder you're angry. Oh, see, now the anger settles. Now, these are skills that are lost, that can be found.
So how do we find them? How do we cultivate emotional intelligence? What do we do on a daily basis, the average Joe?
Well, again, this is where self-aware and self-reflect are very important. And this is an awareness and reflective conversation that we're having here. So if you're with someone who has self-awareness and can reflect, then your brain will naturally be drawn to self-aware and self-reflect, because that's our natural state.
If you're around someone who is.
Because the way the brain grows is the little brain always grows to the bigger brain, the baby again. The baby's looking to mommy to mommy and daddy, then mommy and daddy. That's how it works. So when you're around people who have that capacity, your capacity grows. Now
keep talking.
There are some tools that I offer people. Some language often gets in the way of our emotional intelligence expression. Now, can I teach you something that's really a difficult word to omit from your life?
Yes.
But can change your life. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. And see if you know what the word is.
I can't see. You're blurry on there right now. What does that say? Why? Why? No why. Don't say
no why. No more whys in life. What? So this is one of the basic principles in emotional intelligence when I'm coaching people at this level of awareness, because the word why creates a defensive reaction. It's actually not a question, it's an interrogation. So can I give you an example?
Yes.
So I'll ask you a why question and then give me your first response. May I do that?
Yes. And you all that are watching, say it out loud also, whatever your first response is as well. Say it on your computer. Okay.
So why do you think our world is going through the issues it's going through right now? Now, notice your energy. Okay, you don't have to answer it.
Is going through. I mean,
See, now your brain is now coming up with answers.
yes.
And that's what the why question does. It pushes a person into the corner to come up with the right answer. And it's shutting down your brain, and it's putting you in a defensive response to try and say the right answer.
Immediately, because you know what I was thinking? If it were you and I one-on-one, I would have probably said what I really was thinking. But the fact that we're on the internet and people are watching, yeah, it put me in a defensive state.
Correct. So see how you're aware of that? And now you're reflecting on it. That's it.
Yes.
So I rarely ever use the word why. And with some of my clients, I tell them, if you catch me using the word why, I owe you $5.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now, some of my clients, I get a little cheeky with them because they would say, I really want to learn this, Dietrich. I said, okay, we've been meeting for a bit and you're still whying me. So every time you why, I'm going to charge you $5. And of course, we just are jesting, but it's so important. So what do you use instead?
Yes. What?
Okay, now that's the word.
What?
That is. Yeah, what?
Who's on first? I feel like we're playing that. Who's on? What do we
Yeah,
use?
so I'll rephrase the question. So Danny, what are some of your ideas around, what we're dealing with on a global level right now? What are some of your thoughts on that?
While we're in the state we're in, you cut
Yeah.
out. So, oh, and
Now
then
notice your response.
yeah, I'm not at all defensive about it or worried about.
And notice your body posture. It's more like, oh, it's now more, your whole body is now moving forward in a reflective state. Because the whole point isn't getting the right answer. It's about building a connection. That's the point. That creates a whole brain interaction.
Wow.
Now, there were over 1,000 people studied it by this psychologist and her team of researchers. And they had 800 research papers that they studied around what makes an emotionally intelligent person emotionally intelligent.
Okay, yes.
And the answer was, they thought it was gender. No, it wasn't gender. Well, maybe it must be education, socioeconomic, et cetera, et cetera. No, none of those things. It was this one little distinction. Emotionally intelligent people avoided the word why and used the word what pretty much 90% or more of the time.
Repeat that one more time, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to listen to this and hear this. Say that again. What do emotionally intelligent people do?
They omit and do not use the word why. They use the word what. That was what they discovered. Isn't that fascinating?
Wow.
Yeah, because it builds connection. So there's a few more words involved in questions. So if I was whying you, it's why did you invite me on this live stream, right? Notice your answer. You're like, well, Now, if I say, what can you help me understand? What were some of the reasons you decided to invite me on?
Yeah.
See how it flows different?
Well, I was just thinking about as an employer and a boss, as a mother or a father, when you speak to your children, why in the world did you do that? I mean, yeah, I mean, I've never even thought about that, the way we speak to them instead of, good gosh, what were you thinking? Or what, yeah, I mean, completely different context.
And it creates a whole different mindset and it activates curiosity. Why does not activate curiosity? It activates defensiveness.
Yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's huge right there. I challenge all of us tomorrow to start using what and not why. And I can use that. Now I see why you coach like executive level people
Mhm.
and, huge industries. Because me going in tomorrow morning in the clinic and everyone else who's getting ready to work with the public tomorrow, as I'm seeing patients one on one, oftentimes I use why. I ask why questions,
Yeah.
but I had never thought about it.
So
Yes. Okay. That's huge.
so what this does is it opens your deeper reflective skills to come out and answer the what from a place of connection and insight as opposed to just saying the right answer. So it builds a deeper, more meaningful connection because there's a quality of reflection and a quality of connection that gets to be massaged in, kneaded into the conversation. And so, what is it that you think is so intriguing about using the word what?
Yes. And then, oh, look at this. Yeah, and it just opens you up to start thinking and reflecting. Yeah, so what I love this. I had no idea how emotionally intelligent, how much lack of emotional intelligence apparently I probably have.
Mm.
So, okay, so is our gut and our emotional intelligence involved at all? Is there any sort of connection at all?
Yeah,
Because I work
all the
with
time.
gut.
Yeah. You
What?
know, now here's the thing. You may can I bring another cool teaching point around the gut?
Yes.
Like that's your area.
It is my area, and that's what I said. How is emotional intelligence and gut related? I don't have a clue.
So we've heard people say, just listen to your gut instinct. Mhm.
Yes. Yes.
Well, there's research on this, uncommon research, that when you listen to your gut instinct, it's there to alert you to fight, flight, or freeze. The
Yes.
amygdala is activated.
You bet.
Okay, you got that?
Got it.
So you go, okay, alert, just alert. That's it. Being aware, reflect. Okay, I got to pay attention to something. That's all it is for gut instinct. Here's the distinction. Virtually never make a decision using your gut instinct.
Really?
Because at the core of a gut instinct is fear-based amygdalian response. And fear is the worst motivation for making decisions.
True.
Yeah. But if we mistakenly say, oh, I listened to my gut on this, well, the reason the gut instinct is there is all it is alert, be aware, slow down, pause, take a breather. That's it. Then the brain, basically, you can say, amygdala, thanks. Thanks for alerting me. Give it a try.
Well, I have a big decision to make within the next week or so. Something big, like that's expensive and big, and my gut is leaning and no, let's don't do this. Let's wait a year. Let's, whatever. So that's interesting. So I need
So you
to,
pause
yes.
and then you rest
Okay.
and then you get some advice from people
Okay.
because the where we mostly get into trouble is when we don't involve others in our decisions.
I
Correct?
believe that.
Yeah, and so that leads to more suffering than anything else.
When we're lone ducks out there
Right.
or lone
So
wolves or
one of the best definitions for trauma that I came across is suffering alone. And I thought that makes sense. Whether, when I'm suffering alone, it's traumatic.
Mhm.
Suffering well, suffering's inevitable, correct? Yes, it is.
Yes.
Suffering well is a choice because then you choose people to come alongside you to let them be a resource for you in your suffering. And that is socially acceptable. But when you're in fear-based amygdalian thinking, what happens is we become self-sufficient workaholics, and we don't need anyone. And that is red flags everywhere. Danger, 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 danger.
Wow. That's heavy right there.
I know it's not too relevant to people, but I just thought I'd throw that in there.
Now, yeah. Oh my goodness. This is amazing. This is brilliant work. Mary Catherine says, what about leaving out the word should? It's very triggering.
Yeah, it's a great, yeah. I would agree. Avoid it if you can.
Avoid it if you can.
Yeah, you can use the word would. And so,
would. Yes.
Yeah. And say, would it be okay if I blah, 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 blah? Or would you be too busy if I gave you a call at blah, 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 blah? What would you think about blah, 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 blah? Yeah. It just gives you a bit more space to reflect and be aware of things. That, again, everything is about aware, reflect, aware, reflect. That's the whole point. And to keep a whole brain on. And remember what joy is. One of the indicators of joy is never suffering alone or always having someone with you. Tenderness towards weakness. And so,
yes,
I have people in my life that I go to and I say, I feel inadequate here. I kind of lost in this area and I'm not sure what to do. Would it be too much if we, spend some time together? I could use some support here. Wow.
We rarely say that, don't we? And then you will see how tender people are towards you. I know.
And we all need it.
You bet. Lori says, I 100% believe that. If I make a decision without taking time or talking to others, most of the time I am deciding in my emotions. I need my friends to make me step back and look at my decision from another direction.
Right.
So, I mean, Lori, you are clearly more emotionally intelligent than I am. She is. She's a great one. Let me tell you about Lori. She's lost like 120 pounds on her own. On her own. No surgery, no medication. She's done it on her own. And yes, she is an empath. Look at that.
Nice.
Yes, she is really something. So she's pretty emotionally in tune. Okay. What else do we need to talk about? Because I could listen to you all day long. I am certain that your clients are just mesmerized and they come away so changed. I mean, imagine if every executive all the way down to the the lower jobs, not executive jobs, knew more about their emotional intelligence or how to tap into that, how to be intrapersonal and not interpersonal.
Exactly. So I have a little book here.
Yes. Well, turn it around. There you go.
And can you see it?
Yes. Yes.
You can get it online.
What's it say? Take a picture of it, guys. Emotional intelligence in the workplace, an introduction.
So it's practical for any area, but this is you can put it in your pocket, and a lot of people just pull it out. It's full of these beautiful little nuggets, and I'm going to share one more if I could.
Yes, please keep sharing. Absolutely. Okay.
So on page 19 is a great quote, and here's the quote: "You can tell whether a man is clever by his answers. And you can tell whether a man is wise by his questions."
Oh my goodness. Yes. Mm-hmm.
I think we have a lot of clever people around.
Yes.
However, where is the wisdom?
Yeah.
And see, wisdom is not based on right and wrong, black and white. It's based on insight, reflection, and the context. So that's one of the nuggets. And here's another one on page. This is another one of my favorite. Quote, telling creates resistance. Asking creates relationships. End of quote.
So true.
So have you ever had someone like talk at you and tell you things?
Yes.
Until you're so full, you can hardly wait to get out of there. Like,
yes.
But asking creates connection. So the skill of listening to yourself and being aware of yourself and then sharing it from a place of connection to another person with appropriate questions. You don't need a lot of questions. You just need a few. I could chat for hours. I mean, you're so engaging. Like
you're so engaging.
Well, you are so engaging.
Oh, I love these nuggets also, Tara. Brandon, you're welcome to type up as many nuggets as you want up there for people, because this will go forward onto the Facebook and to YouTube. So I just am so blown away that I don't even know what to say next. And what did you say something about this? Let's see. Neuroscience continues to prove the impact emotions have on the brain and the importance of emotional intelligence. Instead of being emotionally bankrupt, we coach you how to invest emotional wealth into your leadership, your business, and your personal finances.
Yes.
I took that off of your website because I thought that was fascinating and spot on.
Mm-hmm. What caught your attention in that?
Emotionally bankrupt. Caught my attention because I think so many of us are, and we don't even know it, or we're just on this hamster wheel nonstop. And you in 47 minutes have caused us to pause and reflect into some things. And just imagine, if we did this every day, all day, or we read your book, which I can't wait to get. And it's on your website, or is it on Amazon, or is it on both, or one of
It's on both. Yeah.
Okay. So we can get it either way. Yeah. I'm fascinated at what you do, and this has been amazing. Do you have any other nuggets you want to share, or how they can get in touch with you actually? To work with you if they want to work with. Are you taking clients? Okay.
Yeah, you go to our website. Emotional. I got the name Emotional Wealth Management. That's the name of our business. Emotional Wealth Management Incorporated, EWMI.
Yep.
And the bankruptcy part really lit up in me years ago, because people would come to me, they'd fly in to see me, and I realized, look, they can fly in, they can pay, they have all the resources, but if they didn't have the emotional resources, you can't go and draw on something you don't have.
No.
How do you get it? You can put money in the bank, okay. Then you can draw on it and go get it, and you have resources. But what about emotional resources? How do you get those, and how do you accumulate those? Like, they're too soft to hang on to. However, they're so important, because the softness is where people are often fooled. Because people become hard-hearted, resistant, and have to be right all the time. And they treat relationships in a way where it's more important to be right than relational. There's no skill in that. There's no capacity to receive new information. And so I help people. I said, Danny, if I was to work with you, what's the experience that you want in your life where you could be emotionally more equipped, that you could draw on so much emotion that you could handle anything? What is the experience that you would like around that, around anger or fear or sadness? These are rich emotions that strengthen our capacity to be wise and to be learned and handle hard things well in a moment. And imagine if you could go into a room, Danny, and say nothing and be the most vocal, impacting presence in the room. That is emotional intelligence without a word. Because most communication is nonverbal. Because people feel who we are on the inside. Then we hide it with our words on the outside. And we're disconnected. We've created a game to build these EQ skills, and our 3 grandsons have learned them. And they're naturally intuitive. And they know how to use their words with the emotion. Kind of drives the teachers crazy a bit.
Oh, I'm sure. Can you imagine?
And the teachers can sometimes get triggered.
Absolutely.
But then, these are caring adult leaders and they want to do their best, but it's so rare to raise children with this level of awareness and to actually listen to them. Most people, here's a great quote. I don't know where I got it from, but I heard it years ago. Most people need a good listening to, not a good talking to.
Whoa. Somebody type that up there. Lori, you type that up there. Mm-hmm. Say it. Most people need a good listening to, not a good talking to.
Yeah.
Whoa. So true. That's so true. Every doctor, every healthcare provider out there, every nurse, every physician's assistant, every nurse practitioner, every psychologist, psychiatrist need to commit that to memory or have it put on their wall somewhere. That is so true.
Yeah.
Every teenager, every parent of teenagers needs to have that tattooed on their head, on somewhere where they could see that.
And the listening to part has to begin with me listening to me.
And we don't do that.
And if I don't listen to me, and I want everyone else to listen to me, it's going to get awkward.
Wow. Okay. So that is gold.
What caught you there, Danny? You notice the what is, I'm using the what here.
Well, because I talked to my kids a lot more, so talked to my children as a single mom, stressed out on food stamps, in school, children running wild, moved out of town. I've talked to them. I rarely listened. And I know that. I mean, I've messed up a lot of things. Now I've raised 2 good children, but I talked to them. I just imagine their life would have been better, as would mine have been so much better and so much more full of joy.
Wow. Yeah.
Instead of anger, every morning trying to get out of the house, every afternoon trying to get dinner cooked, every bedtime trying to get where I talk to them. And I didn't listen the way I should have. And the joy was not there. Those 5 years, I can tell you that. So reflecting on that, and it's sad. It makes me sad.
I can feel the sadness in you, Danny.
Well, I missed a lot of their childhood. I mean, I was there, but I wasn't there.
Yeah.
There's a big difference. And I think a lot of people, it's not just me, but a lot of people are that way. We're busy and we've got our phones and we've got our computers, and we're not listening.
Yeah. And so these are skills. These are soft skills. They're very soft and you can't learn them quickly. And what you need, if I may be bold here with you, is a good listening to.
I'm certain about that. And I've done a lot of work around it.
Yeah.
But not forgiving myself. But still, it's hard. I mean, you just hit a nerve.
It's ongoing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
See, the loss that you're feeling, here's a little neuroscience tidbit, if I may. Feeling sad for women, for the feminine brain, is very unique. It's not the same as in the masculine brain, which has estrogen or testosterone. The estrogen in the female brain has a whole different neuro interactive dynamic than testosterone. And I won't get into too much of that, but that's part of how I train and teach people. Those distinctions are very important. There's lots of things that are the same, but the distinctions are very important. And one of them is around sadness. When we feel sad, it's always about a loss of something valuable to our heart. That's what sadness is about. And when we can be sad with someone and share that loss with them, it actually opens up our parasympathetic nervous system and allows us to breathe because someone's listening to the loss that was been really important to us. Just that level of listening activates a whole brain, whole heart, breathing, interactive space in the brain and in the body. Now, the female brain has more neurons around sadness than the male brain.
Oh.
So when you have a group of women in a room, they all know and share the sadness. Correct?
Yes, correct.
If you put some men in the room with the women, which is fine, the men will not catch it. And that is often misunderstood or judged as like, you don't really care. I'm here for you. Well, they have less neurons around that area. And because testosterone keeps men very focused.
Yes.
So this is a bigger context, another angle on EQ of the distinctions between men and women and building connection. They're very important in leadership, in families, because we are male and female. And I could go on and on. Like I'm just drawn to you.
We just love it. They are all loving this. Absolutely. Most people know they're doing it or something wrong, but we need someone to listen to our reason that we do it. And we need to hear, we need to hear what we are saying. We need to be heard. Yes, Lori. And Tara says, I am definitely listening now. Yes.
Wow.
And I don't know if she's talking about her children or what, but this spans the children, the spouses, the parents, the employees, everyone can benefit from what you do. What a beautiful field that you are in, and so needed, especially to me in this season that we're in, even more so now than ever. And you've already built a practice, for decades around this. But now I think that, and thank goodness the people that you've worked with the last 30, 40 years have worked with you and hopefully navigated the last year and a half better than the average bear out there, where all of us were questioning why on all of this. And they probably were saying what, and just, yes, I'm so grateful to have met you. And yes, Janine, I agree. Much needed today. I feel, very emotional right now, which is real interesting for me because none of that pops up a whole lot with me. And I don't know where that emotion's coming from. And I'll think about it whenever we get off here and reflect. You have Brenda Dixon on here. Brenda is like one of our most accomplished psychotherapists in town. So she was listening.
I had the privilege of, and I was invited to speak to 30 psychologists to do a training with them. And, I was a little intimidated initially, but I just do what I do. And, it was all morning, and I brought what I brought. And at the end, they stood up and applauded. I was so humbled and surprised, and because it's about relationship. And yeah, there's A lot of people say, how did you get into this, Dietrich? And so I thought about, how did I get into this? Well, it was a memory with my dad, who was a soldier, came back from the war, met Mary, his beautiful wife, got married, and those are all the tools he had that I had to sort of grow up with. He was intense, let's say, okay? And my mom did her best to try and listen to him. And they would have these, intense triggers, and she would get really quiet. He'd get really, they'd go back and forth. They call it, like ping pong, most, intensity ping pong, if you want. And I would watch this, and then my dad would stomp off, just frustrated. And he would say this phrase, Mary, I just can't find the words. Never forgot it. I went upstairs and I found the words.
Yes, you did.
I went looking for words, and I learned in neuroscience, words are the last thing that the brain needs. It's the last level of neurodevelopment that is needed. And we tell children, listen, use your words. And they go, I tried. And they can't find them because they're not, the brain hasn't developed procedurally enough to use words. And once I found that out, well, that makes more sense. And we use words way too soon when most communication is nonverbal. So I learned that from watching my mom and dad try and navigate things. That's where it started. And then it just kind of grew from there. I mean, I've worked with Hell's Angels and like some pretty nasty gangs over the years too. And I've watched these men and women like come around because they're trapped too. And I've worked in the penitentiaries, and like it's just taken me everywhere, and it's like pretty satisfying. So we'll wrap up here. What is one thing you liked what's one thing that surprised you today in our conversation? Just one thing. Ask maybe you and the listeners.
I don't have one thing because my brain is spinning in a million directions. But I mean, seriously, I don't have one. I mean, the whole why over what thing was incredible. I don't know. You all can post that up there. I really don't, because literally it was so packed with so much. I'm going to have to reflect and use my words. I'm going to have to reflect on this tonight. And wow. I was a little surprised that I got emotional over not listening and the talking. Joy. Okay. Kim says her thing was joy is tenderness to weakness. Yes, I agree. And I was just when I was exhausted at night and worn out and very tender, as I was I wasn't mean or anything, but I was clearly not myself. And there was that whole tender that I didn't reflect, I didn't think about being joy, but it was precious and sweet. So I'm so excited. We could talk to you for hours, but I know people have things to do, and you all can talk to him for hours. You can hire him and he can become your emotional intelligence coach. And, I'm just honored to get to meet you. I really am. And I think that timing is everything. There's a reason it didn't work out right the last time. And I just believe, and I didn't, whatever. And I just am so honored. And I think you're doing incredible, much needed work. And I'm going to go on right now and order your book when I get off of here, because we all need those little nuggets of stuff. And guys, speaking of books, by the way, actually, Wild and Well is #1 on Amazon right now under new releases. Yes, on thyroid. And it's been #1 for over a week. And it comes out November the 9th. You guys are actually going to get your books on November the 9th, not shipped November the 9th. So I'm thrilled to death. If you haven't ordered it yet, you can definitely pre-order it anywhere. Next Sunday night, Dr. Robert Whitfield, I want to make sure that's right. Yes. plastic surgeon down in Austin, Texas, will be discussing breast implant illness. Woo! It's going to be a really amazing Sunday night service. Now, not if you don't have breast implants, then that's not going to be your thing. But guaranteed, you know someone with breast implants. And I met with him last week in Scottsdale, Arizona, and he is brilliant. And he takes out breast implants, he explants every week, many every week. And he's going to be discussing his theories behind breast implant illness and why so many women are sick. And we're seeing more and more illness. Not everyone has breast implant illness that has breast implants. So just know that. But we're going to talk. He's going to be fantastic. That's next Sunday night. I will get the promotion up for that. And Dietrich, I appreciate you. I told Dietrich we were going to go 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and look at us. It's like that.
Wow.
This is how needed you are. Thank you. Thank you, guys. All right. Show him some love. Pleasure. Hit your heart buttons, hit your like buttons, and reach out to him. Lindsay says, I love you both to the moon. Look at that. You too. That's a good way to end it right there. Lindsay's our mutual connection there. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you, and I'll see you next week.